All right, we're back in the tent here in Palo Alto. Today, not only do we have special guests and friends, but I have to make a confession. And the confession is that if I wasn't doing technology in the tent, I would be interning for you or working for you or something, because I absolutely, from the moment I heard about your idea, fell in love with it. And we've been talking and brainstorming about a bunch of stuff. And part of what I want to do is open the communication and the
floodgates.
The floodgates, exactly. The floodgates to your project with the Middle East. So do a quick intro. We've got Max and Dan from Blueseed. Welcome. Thanks for making time and joining me in the tent today.
Thanks for having us.
It's always great to see you guys. Tell us about yourself. Tell us about Blueseed, and then we'll get into a couple stories. So please, Max, go ahead.
I'm Max Marty. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Blueseed. And Blueseed is creating a community 12 miles off the coast of the San Francisco Bay Area for 1,000 entrepreneurs from all around the world. No matter where you're coming from, the fact that you can't get into Silicon Valley because, of course, our very antiquated immigration policies and system here make it pretty difficult for entrepreneurs to get in. And sometimes they can get in, there's workarounds and such, but they're a hassle and a headache. So we're making that process much more streamlined, much more seamless. You apply, you come on board, and you live and work on your startup on board for 6 months, 9 months. And then once you've grown it to the right place where USCIS, the regulatory body that's in charge of dealing with all these visas and such, basically when they take you seriously enough, when you've gotten your company large enough, then you can make the transition into Silicon Valley or go back to other parts of the world and continue the journey of the growth. So our primary goal is to add a lot of value to these companies, to concentrate them in one place, give them the services, the people, and most importantly, each other that they need to succeed in their journey. So myself, my own background, I am I came from Miami, Florida, and my parents are Cuban. They come from the island of Cuba, just off the coast of Florida. And they came in here in order to escape communism and some other pretty bad things that were going on there. And they became entrepreneurs themselves. They created businesses, they created companies here in the US. In their case, it's a medical company there in South Florida. And it is sort of the quintessential example of immigrants and entrepreneurs who want to come here from all around the world, who are coming here to create great companies, to create the next Googles, the next Facebooks, the next technologies. We thought it was, I thought it was ridiculous that we don't have a more open immigration policy when it comes to these issues. And we said, we're going to solve this, and if we can't solve it by going and banging our heads against politicians in Washington, there's got to be a more entrepreneurial solution. That's what this is all about, so that's what we're doing.
Totally. Just real quickly, so we had Vivek on the show the other day, and he's on Capitol Hill trying to cheerlead and talk about
innovation.
Immigration, all these issues, and he gave us an insane statistic, and he said that if we just simply allow the people who are here now to even work and have green cards or be able to build their businesses, it would increase the GDP of the U.S. by 1.9% over the next 10 years. Now that's a shit ton of money that's we're talking about here. So you guys obviously want to play a role. Dan, tell us a little bit about where you're from and how you got connected, and your background as well.
My name is Dan Dascalescu. I'm from Romania and I've been living in the Valley for the past 8 years, and I still don't have a US green card. So I'm not a permanent resident here, and I'm constantly faced with things like have to be extra screened at airports and such. And this was one of the reasons I joined Blueseed from week one, and I've been working with Max on this project because we really believe that this is a form of discrimination in reality. You have no choice on when you are born, but you are prevented from coming where you think you belong or where you can contribute most value. And on this ship, we want to enable entrepreneurs to essentially scale their startups up to the point where they can live in the valley proper. My background is in computer science. I studied this in Romania, and at Blueseed I'm the CTO and information officer too. And of course we are entrepreneurs with all sorts of things. I even filed taxes.
We do a little bit of everything. So just so people understand, you're putting together a ship, potentially later on kind of a platform, where you as an entrepreneur, international entrepreneur, apply to come on board, live, work, and be part of a community of entrepreneurship. And it just happens to be 12 miles off the coast of California, which is in international waters. So you basically can do all that. And again, from the very first time I heard about this project, I'm like, you know what, that's so insane, but so big and so ambitious that I want to be part of it. And I don't know how to. I think we met at the Unoodle,
We met on the Unoodle
boat tour, actually, coincidentally.
We also met at GMIC later.
Exactly. And so I'm like, hey, Dan, you know what? I just love what you're doing, and I think there's an angle that could really work both ways with the Middle East. And obviously, I see this all the time. People can't get visas. People can't come here. They're completely disconnected. And so I just really resonated with what you're doing. And then also, the interesting part about it is that potentially, investors and partners from the Middle East could be really relevant for this project. So give us an update, is this going to happen? Talk about a couple people who've recently kind of gotten involved, and just tell us, where in the process of the project are you with getting this started?
There's one thing though I would edit from the sort of things you said, which was you said it happens to be 12 miles off the coast from Silicon Valley, from the San Francisco Bay Area, and I would put it a little more strongly than happens.
Sure.
It's very purposefully designed to be 12 miles from this specific place, because of all the places in the world, there's many places one could start a company. I mean, that's obvious, but this place, Silicon Valley, really, there's a specific magic to this place that helps many types of companies to do particularly well, particularly companies that are looking to go global.
Yeah.
If you want to go global, this is probably the best place to begin.
Totally.
Because of that, we want it to be very specifically right near Silicon Valley, so that our community members can be in contact with investors here, come to things like this, that go on in places like, here in Palo Alto in the Silicon Valley. So there's a magic here that we wanted to connect people with.
Yeah.
And everybody who's on board, although they don't have a work visa, so you can't come here to sit on a computer and type away and earn a paycheck and all that stuff. But you can get here on what's known as a business and tourist travel visa, which are much easier to get than a work visa, and that allows you to come back and forth up to 180 days a year from the U.S., and you can go to investor meetings, you can do all kinds of stuff.
Totally.
You can't pull out a paycheck because that's what the government considers quote unquote work, but you can do a lot of things that help the company to grow and help to integrate you with Silicon Valley.
Well, most of the time, early stage, you're not getting a paycheck anyway, so I guess.
You're getting, you're lucky when you get some money so you can, buy the ramen noodles, right? So,
which is one of our topics, top ramen diet.
This is a problem actually, because many startups want to pay their employees in terms of equity, at least in the early few months. And you cannot do that with foreign employees because there is a so-called prevailing wage you have to pay them in actual cash. So immigration prevents you in many ways from starting up in the US, which is why we have this.
So then are the companies incorporated here or in the Cayman Islands, or where will the companies be incorporated?
So most of the ones who've come to us want to be incorporated in Delaware.
Delaware, okay.
In the state of Delaware in the U.S. And there's many reasons for that. Probably one of the best ones is that investors are really comfortable with that. But they can be incorporated anywhere. And the fact that you're incorporated in Delaware, doesn't mean that you then are subject to things like immigration law, because that's more on a level of where you're actually doing business. So if you're doing business outside the country and you're incorporated in Delaware, that's fine, and that's done all the time.
Someone explained it to me that if Kim Jong-un now wanted to incorporate a company in Delaware, he could, and he never set foot in the U.S. So that was a funny description. Okay,
it's actually easier to incorporate in Delaware than in British Virgin Islands if you do some research on shell corporations and like.
Huh, interesting. Okay, so tell us, how's it going? How close are we to getting the ship going? We've been in communication, and I've heard, you've had a pretty significant investor kind of join in your efforts. So tell us a little bit, give us an update about where are we?
We are fortunate to have Mike Maples of Floodgate Fund on our side, and also Trevor Kinzel of Correlation Ventures. And reflecting the international nature of the project, we also have a number of investors outside the US. Gen Fund is an angel group in China, and Mr. Shu Xiaoping, who is also the founder of EDU on the New York Stock Exchange. He's one of our investors. And we plan to launch the ship in the first half of next year.
Wow.
We already have over 350 startups that expressed interest without us having an actual ship.
That's funny.
So by the time we open...
You've pitched your vision. You've gotten a ton of press, a ton of inbound interest of people wanting to join this. And now it's just, getting a ship and logistics and, obviously a lot of work needs to happen before this happens. But again, part of the reason why I think this is super interesting is because it really opens the door for a lot of people who would never be able to come experience Silicon Valley the way they should if they're going to be building a company. And for us, we definitely want to help. So one of the things that I thought about, what we want to do is between now and when you launch, we want to sponsor a company to come work on the ship. So we want to have a competition or some sort of something where we actually, as an entity, with the help of our partners and sponsors, want to actually cover the cost for someone to come live on the ship. And I almost want to live vicariously through them. I don't know if I've told you this. I'm big on ships. I love ships. And so when we first connected, I spent dozens of hours researching ships and kind of just doing kind of background research because again, I think it's just such an amazing project, and a few people I've talked to, they're like, "Oh, it's too crazy," or "It's too much of a headache," or "You haven't thought of this and you haven't thought of that." And from the beginning, I've really respected you guys because you're just really clear on the vision. Now, whether you buy a ship or lease a ship or rent a ship or whatever, those things might change a little bit, and there's obviously a little pivoting that may come along. But I think, I believe in it. And so I've kind of pledged my support. And again, if there's stuff that we can do as far as the Middle East, would love to connect you to the audience there as well as potential partners and investors. So let me know how we can help. And then again, we want to create a flow of companies to join you guys on the ship.
We'll have you as a pipeline partner for the Middle East region. Very
cool, very cool. I've now become an ambassador for Unoodle in the Middle East, and maybe I'll be the ambassador. That would be my new thing. I'm going to be the ambassador. Anyway, guys, so we do this thing called Lessons Through Stories on the show. And what it is we have our little board of topics. Dan, you talked about maybe talking about reverse engineering something?
I love to share a reverse engineering hack. So my background is in computer science, and I'm also a hacker in the good sense of the word, as in tinkerer and playing with technology. So here's something that probably nobody else will share with you. It's very important to get press for your startup and investors, and you have to reach out to people.
Yeah.
As you know, warm approaches are best if you are introduced by somebody, but sometimes you just don't have a warm lead to somebody you want to reach to, and you need to find their contact info, their email address.
Yeah.
And the more important the person is, the less easy it is to find their email. So what we discovered is that you can use this very popular Gmail add-on called Rapportive to do that. Rapportive is something that sits in the sidebar of your Gmail and shows all the social media info about the person who sends you an email, or about any email address that you type in the compose window. So it shows their Facebook, their LinkedIn, their Twitter. It's very useful to figure out who somebody is when you get an email, or who somebody is when you send them an email. So this is it. If you type the correct email address, Rapportive will show you a match. But if you misspell the address, you're not gonna find anybody. So if you know somebody is at VMware, like a certain person we've been trying to reach, you type various combinations, like first name dot last name, or first initial, and so on, until Rapportive pops up with information.
That's hilarious.
So that's jackpot.
Okay, so the funny part about that is that Brian Wong was met with Kevin Rose on Foundation, which is kind of similar to this, and he said his way of doing that was just typing all the different combinations of first letter, last letter, dot, whatever, in the BCC field, and then just somehow magically, he said it works all the time. So that's actually similar, but thanks. I'm going to start using that, Rapportive, okay?
Useful.
Max, do you have a story for us, and maybe on a different topic?
Ooh.
You want to take a look at these?
Well, I don't know that I don't know that this is a maybe a good lesson to learn. But so we were pitching not too long ago at a particular VC fund that's not far from where we're sitting actually, and I got in kind of late. So my partners were there already pitching, and So I looked around, which room are they pitching in? I was like 5 minutes late, so I was like looking around. No, it's not in this room. There was like some other group pitching there. No, it's not in that room. I finally found the room that they were pitching, and I came in. I was kind of late, so I had the advantage of being able to just sit back and kind of admire and look at the situation and really objectively see my co-founder, and Dan wasn't there, but Sam was there, who also works with us, and they were pitching. But this is something that I think everybody should do at some point, is just be able to not participate in the pitch, because if you participate, your brain starts going in all different kinds of directions. But just being able to sit back and look at the investors' reactions, every single thing that's said, how are they sitting, how are they, where is their mouth, what is their posture, what are their facial structures, facial muscles doing. What questions do they ask? Then what's their reaction when you hear the answer? So you can tell, is this the kind of thing that they want to hear? Is that the kind of thing, how is this? And of course, you want to be honest and transparent with them, but there's always an element of framing. So there's always, do you first talk about this, then you want to talk about that, etc. So I had the opportunity to see that, and I think that everybody who's pitching in this way should definitely try to do that at least sometime. Maybe show up to a meeting late so that you're not the one who has to be leading the conversation.
That's the dangerous thing to say, because the next thing we're going to talk about is old rules, and mine is be on time and be on time. But
you should definitely be on time. But somebody should be on time. And then
my question to you is did it improve your pitch?
It did. It did. So I found it very helpful. So actually, unfortunately, with that particular VC, it was kind of a write-off, because I was kind of watching the interaction, and I realized that there's certain things I could be saying to improve it, but I kind of judged that the overall probability is pretty low, and frankly, the base rate probability of any one individual investor coming in is pretty low. So if you can get some sort of data that would improve your overall chances with others at a cost of perhaps sacrificing that investor, it may often be worth it. These calculations should be going through a person's mind, as to, okay, really, if you're going to be doing 30 pitches, in the span of time that you want to give to the company, or 100 or whatever it is, there's somewhere you should just try new things, try new ideas, try presenting it in a different way, try, maybe this is what they're interested in your business, or maybe that is what they're interested in. And of course, at the very end of the conversation, so it was, they went through, and I kind of realized, okay, this guy's not going to invest, it's just the way it is. So at the very end of the conversation, he said, do you guys have any more questions? And I said, I was looking around the room, and when I walked in, I had noticed there was this really awesome Monopoly set that was right there by the front of the room, and it was called Ventureopoly. And I was like, wow, this is really cool looking. I wish I had that. So, he said, do you guys have any other questions? And I said, excuse me, it's like the first thing I had said almost the entire time I was there. I was like, oh, excuse me, I had a question. Can I buy that? I was just pointing at the set, and he's like, oh, that. Oh, we can just give you one. And he goes and gets out a Ventureopoly set, hands it over. They had made customized Ventureopoly sets for their own firm, and I was like, oh my God, this is awesome! I just felt so much better. I was like, I don't need your money. I'm happy with this, So I got something out of it. I was very happy. I walked out of there. I told my other my comrades, I said, guys, I'm happy to say I'm the only one who walked out of that meeting with something, but
that's super cool.
Here it is, tangible in your hands, kind of thing. So
funny. That's a super cool story. I like that. I love monopolies. Let's play a game one of these days. But anyways,
Ventureopoly.
Yeah. That's like the 2.0 version. So that's super cool. But anyway, guys, finally, I just want to thank you. We're running an Indigo campaign to sponsor these companies to come here. So if you can help with outreach with that would be awesome. And then we're launching this whole series in Beirut, March 20th. And then I think the first wave of companies is going to come, a little bit later this year. And the ship probably won't be up, but, we'd love to get you involved and figuring out, the filtering mechanism, or how we pick companies, or who the audience is. And again, if there's anybody else that we can connect you to in the Middle East, would definitely let me know. And want to help you guys as much as I possibly can, and then I kind of want to come chill on the ship for a while too. I'll be chief janitor, or
there's an open invitation all the time.
Awesome.
So
yeah. I'm not sure how my wife is going to feel, because she gets seasick, but I'm sure I can get a hall pass for a week or so and come do something on the ship. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much again for joining us in the tent, guys. Thank you for coming by.
Thanks for having us.
I hope you had a good time. And by the way, this is baklava from Beirut, and you should try a piece. It is super awesome, and I tell people this because it's funny. It costs more to ship it than to buy it. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. This was another episode with the guys from Blueseed. One of these days, there's going to be a ship off the coast of California, and if you want to be on that ship, we are going to sponsor a company to live and work on Blueseed and have access to Silicon Valley if they can't get a visa. Anyway, thanks to ArabNet, our partner, and thank you to PayPal, our sponsor. Peace.